Hello. In this video, I just want to go over a basic explanation for what is repetition compulsion. And in all my videos, I'll mention that psychological terminology. So I wanted to explain it in simple terms today so that you can refer to this video when you before you look at one of the other long videos. And I'm also going to talk about the 6 bad messages that we take from our childhood. And I'm also going to break down the 8 life categories. And all my tales of repetition compulsion that I do, I call them tales of repetition compulsion or torque. They're all based on a life category and a bad message that we take from our childhood. So what is repetition compulsion? It's like this. Children learn what they live. So if a child grows up in a toxic or abusive home environment or any environment, that becomes their normal. That becomes what they're familiar with. And we are actually programmed to duplicate what we're familiar with in our adult lives. So if you grew up in a toxic or abusive childhood, you are naturally going to be programmed to reproduce that type of setting in your adult life. So that means as an adult, if what your normal is abuse and toxic situations, that will be what you gravitate towards in your adult life. So you will find yourself in abusive and toxic situations in your adult life that literally mirror what you went through in your childhood. So you reinvite abuse back into your adult life, or you recreate abusive or toxic situations in your adult life that are exactly like the ones you had when you were a child. And that's repetition compulsion. But by the way, Freud invented repetition compulsion, I should say that. Let's break it down into what I consider simpler terms. Because it took me a while to remember the term repetition compulsion. It's psychological terminology. I didn't study psychology. I didn't study psychiatry. So those terms, repetition compulsion, were foreign to me. So I'm quite aware of that. And anyone who's looking at this, that you may not have studied psychology or psychiatry either. So I prefer to describe repetition compulsion in other terms, simpler terms. And I would say it's a toxic, sinister, hidden force that makes us reproduce the abuse we experienced as children. It makes us reproduce that in our adult lives. So it's a toxic, sinister. Why is it toxic? Why is it sinister? Because we don't want to have abuse in our adult lives. We don't want abuse in our childhood. But it's a toxic, sinister force because it makes us bring that abuse, which is toxic and sinister, into our adult lives. All right? A toxic, sinister, hidden. Why is it hidden? It's hidden because it's in our subconscious mind. In other words, we grow up as children and we absorb everything that's going on in our environment. Everything, be it good, be it bad. But in an abusive situation, we absorb all the badness and it goes into our subconscious. And that becomes, as I said, that becomes our normal. That becomes what we're familiar with. So as part of our development, we are actually programmed to gravitate towards what is normal. And that programming is actually beyond our control. Why? Because it's in the subconscious mind. And I don't know where the subconscious mind is, but wherever the subconscious mind is, it has a lot of control over us. So whatever we experience as children, that becomes our normal. And our subconscious mind programs us so that we will gravitate towards that in our adult lives because that's our normal. So that's why it's a force, because it's a force that programs us to go towards what is our norm or what we are familiar with. So it's a toxic, hidden, subconscious force, and it makes us reproduce what we experience as children in our adult lives. So toxic, sinister, hidden force. We have no way of stopping this happening until we eventually learn about it. And that's why I'm doing these videos on this channel, and that's why I wrote the book, because I want people to learn about it. Because as soon as I learned about repetition compulsion, the toxic, sinister, hidden force, I was able to stop it controlling my life. And that's what I want to happen for you too. And it's very simple to do that. I just wish I'd known about it way sooner, because by the time I learned about repetition compulsion, as you'll see in one of my other videos, I'd made a fair few mistakes along the way in my personal life. I'd made very bad choices, very bad decisions, and I'd like to think had I learned about it sooner, I would have not had them happen. And that's another reason I'm here to tell you about how you can stop being under the control of this toxic, sinister, hidden force, because all you have to do is know about it. When you know about it, it's no longer in your subconscious, it's in your conscious mind, and we can control what's in our conscious mind. Now, the next thing I want to do, oh God, I always forget to have it on my lap. In the Tales of Repetition Compulsion, I also talk about the life categories, and I talk about what I call the 6 bad messages. And I just divided life into what I consider 8 main categories. And that was to make it simple for me to do a series of videos, because I think the only way to explain repetition compulsion, instead of keeping it all gobbledygook and up here, bring it down to reality, make it relevant, show people how repetition compulsion, that toxic, sinister, hidden force, show people how it infiltrates every aspect of their life. And it does. So I do what's called tales of repetition compulsion, and in those tales I pick a life category and I pick what I'm going to tell you about in a minute, which is one of the bad messages, and I show how repetition compulsion works in that system. All right, so just to make it simple, and this will be a video you can refer to, the 8 life categories are: number 1, work career; number 2, family roles; number 3, your finances; number 4, your relationships, be they friends or romantic; number 5, your health and your self-care; number 6, your learning and your achievements; number 7, your personal goals or your projects; and number 8, your social or community interactions. Now, so there are the 8 life categories, and I'll do tales of repetition in each of those 8 life categories. Now, the 6 bad messages are really important, and this is what I came up with. I figure that when a child, or when I grew up in an abusive environment, I think we take away 6 bad messages in our subconscious mind. Remember, as children, we are absorbing everything from our environment. And if a child is constantly put down, or constantly told they're useless, or constantly ignored, or constantly beaten, abused, physically, emotionally, sexually, or all 3, they are sadly going to end up with taking 6 bad messages from that environment. And these bad messages are, again, in our subconscious. We don't even know they're there, but they are constantly feeding the bad messages to us, so that we end up feeling no confidence and feeling worthless. And you'll understand why that happens when I call them out to you. All right, so the first bad message that we assimilate and that we absorb from a difficult and abusive childhood is: you are not enough. That's what you come away thinking. You come away thinking you are not enough. You are responsible for me and others. And when I say me, that's your carer. So your carer gives you the impression that you are responsible for them and others. And the third bad message, and this is a really sad one, is: don't trust your feelings and don't trust your instincts. Because you're never allowed to give an opinion, so you're never sure of how you feel. And if you're not sure of how you feel, you don't know what your instincts are. And if you don't know what your instincts are, you have no radar going around the world that can pick up danger, because that's what your instincts do. Your instincts pick up danger, and if you have no instincts, you have no radars to protect you. Now, the 4th bad message: you are bad, you are wrong. The 5th bad message: you are alone, nobody loves you. And the 6th is: you must be perfect or nobody will love you. And I fell for that one, because I always thought I had to be perfect or nobody would like me, never mind love me. And I became a very high achiever, and I felt that the more qualifications I had, the more perfect I was, the more everyone would think I wasn't stupid and that I was worth something. And sure, all I ended up doing was exhausting myself trying to study, and get qualifications. And even though I had lots of qualifications, I still felt worthless and stupid, and still felt that nobody loved me. So I'll go over the 6 bad messages one more time. The 6 bad messages that we assimilate into our subconscious are: you are not enough. You are responsible for me and others. Don't trust your feelings. Don't trust your instincts. You are bad. You are wrong. You are alone. Nobody loves you. And lastly, you must be perfect or nobody will love you. So I'll just finish off now and just say to you, I wrote the book, Your Childhood is Over. No, it's not, because in my own experience of having been under the control of the toxic, sinister, hidden force of repetition compulsion, and having carried the 6 bad messages in my head all through my childhood and all into my adult life, and how those 6 bad messages defined me in a bad way, and they infiltrated every aspect of my life. My life was pretty much a disaster in all aspects, right? And so I wrote the book because when I finally, thankfully, came across a therapist who eventually explained that I was repeating the abuse I suffered in my childhood, I was bringing it into my adulthood, only then was I able to realise that I was under the control of a hidden, toxic, sinister force called repetition compulsion, and only then was I able to stop it controlling me. And my life, I really mean this, my life changed immediately for the better, because as soon as I was aware of this force, I was now conscious of it. It was no longer in my subconscious, it was now in my conscious brain, and we can control what's in our conscious brain. We can control what's in our conscious. Can you hear this? Dottie, are you coming over to me again? Are you coming over to me again? Come on. No, she's just standing there wagging her tail at me but she loves when I talk. This is Dottie. That's another thing I should tell you. I have 3 wise tails in this house, and they are my dogs, Petal, Blossie, and Dottie. And in all the terrible times I went through trying to get away from abusive situations and trying to break free from bringing my childhood into my adulthood, I have to be honest, it was my dogs that got me through. They were just a constant source of love and support, and it was all totally trustworthy. They never let me down, ever. So I decided to include my 3 dogs in my videos, and I give them the job of telling you how to heal, because I worked out there's 3 ways that you can heal from being under the control of repetition compulsion. So I give each of my 3 wise tales one of those roles, and I let them explain at the end of each video how you heal from repetition compulsion. So I don't think, Dottie, you're not coming over to say hello today, are you, Dottie? Well, be like that if you want. Blossie, do you want to say hello? No, you're too busy sleeping. They've all had a walk and they've had their dinner and they're too busy snoozing. So look, that's the basics. I explained what repetition compulsion is. I explained the 8 life categories, and I explained the 6 bad messages. And yeah, just to finish off quickly about the book, I wrote the book. The book explains repetition compulsion, and it talks about the subconscious, and it also gives examples, and I think they're kind of tough examples, but anyone that's been through abuse knows that abuse is tough. It's not light reading, it's difficult reading, but it shows how repetition compulsion relates to your everyday life, and it makes it real. It gives real examples, and then at the end I tell you how to break free from repetition compulsion in the book. So I finish on a very positive note, and it's written from my own experiences. And as I say, I'm only sharing with you what I learned and what really helped me, because I want that to happen for you too. I really do want to help you. All right. Thanks for listening now. Where is my thing? Thanks for listening.